There's a particular kind of silence that only exists in places where you were once expected to speak. It isn't the absence of sound. That would be too simple, too clean. This silence is shaped, pressed into the corners of rooms, soaked into the grain of old wooden tables, caught in the slight tremor of your fingers when they hover over something familiar. It remembers what used to happen here. It remembers voices that no longer call your name. And when you step back into it, it recognizes you. I notice it immediately. The moment the front door opens, no, not even opens, just the moment the latch gives with that soft, resistant click, I feel it wrap around me like something damp and patient. My hand is still on the handle. I don't move. There's a thin line of light spilling in from behind me, cutting across the floor, stopping just short of the hallway like it knows better than to go further. Like the house itself has drawn a boundary. I shouldn't be here. The thought arrives fully formed, complete, undeniable. Not panic, not even urgent. Just, what? Correct. My fingers tighten slightly around the metal. I could still leave. It would be easy. The door isn't fully open. No one has seen me yet. I could close it quietly, carefully, walk back down the path, feel the gravel shift under my shoes, get into my car, and disappear into a version of my life that does not include this place. No one would stop me. No one would notice. A slow inhale. The air smells the same. That's what unsettles me first. Not the silence. Not the house, the smell. Something faintly sweet like overripe fruit, and underneath it, the dull, dry scent of dust that's been disturbed recently but not thoroughly. Like someone tried to clean but stopped halfway through. Or like someone wanted it to look like they tried. My chest tightens but not sharply. It's a gradual pressure, like something is being layered on top of me, one thin sheet at a time. I push the door open the rest of the way. It creaks. Of course it does. It always did. I remember thinking once that I would fix it. Oil the hinges. Make it silent. I remember standing in this exact doorway, maybe 10 years ago, thinking that small things like that mattered. That if I fixed enough of them, the house would feel different. The thought almost makes me laugh. Almost. The door closes behind me with a soft click that sounds louder than it should. The silence adjusts. I stand there longer than I need to. Shoes still on. Bag still slung over my shoulder. Eyes moving but not really seeing, just tracing the outlines of things I already know are there. The hallway stretches ahead, narrow, slightly dim. The light bulb above flickers, not dramatically, not in a way that demands attention. Just enough to feel unstable. Like it can't quite decide whether it wants to stay on. I used to hate that. I used to stand under it and stare up, waiting for it to either commit or burn out. It never did. Still hasn't. There's a faint sound somewhere deeper in the house. Movement. Not loud. Not distinct. Just enough to confirm what I already knew. They're here. Of course they are. They're the ones who asked me to come. No, asked is the wrong word. The message had been careful. Neutral. As if written by someone who didn't quite remember how to speak to me, but didn't want to admit that. We need to discuss something important. No name, no greeting. No acknowledgement of time, distance, or the quiet absence that had stretched itself across years until it became something almost solid. Just that. I shift my weight. The floor responds with a soft, familiar creak. And immediately, there's a pause in the deeper part of the house. The kind of pause that doesn't belong to the building. The kind that belongs to people. They heard that. Of course they did. My body reacts before my thoughts catch up. Shoulders tightening. Breath shortening just slightly, just enough that I notice it because I've learned to notice everything. Waiting. For what, I'm not entirely sure. Footstep. There they are. Measured. Not rushed. Not hesitant either. Controlled. Approaching. Each step lands with a deliberate weight that feels practiced. I hate that I notice that. I hate that my mind immediately starts categorizing the sound, dissecting it, trying to map it onto memory. Is that? Yes, it is. The rhythm is the same. It's him. My father. The realization doesn't hit like something new. It settles. Like dust finding its place again. The hallway seems to narrow as he approaches, though I know that's not real. Just perspective. Just the way my eyes are trying to adjust to something they haven't had to process in a long time. He appears at the end of the hall. And for a moment, just a moment, I don't recognize him. Not because he's changed so much, but because I expected something. Some kind of signal, a shift, a reaction. Something that acknowledges that this moment is not ordinary. But he just stands there, looking at me, as if I had stepped out 5 minutes ago and come back with groceries. His expression is neutral. Not cold, not warm, just flat. It's almost impressive. My throat feels dry. I don't speak. He doesn't either. The silence stretches. It doesn't feel empty. It feels loaded, like something is waiting to be placed inside it. He takes another step forward, then another. Stops a few feet away, close enough that I can see the details now. The lines on his face are deeper. Corners of his mouth pull down slightly even when he's not frowning. His eyes, I focus on his eyes. There's something there. Or maybe there isn't. And that's the problem. I wasn't sure you'd come. His voice is the same. That's the worst part. Not the word. Not even the tone. Just the fact that it hasn't changed. Like time didn't touch that part of him at all. I swallow. I wasn't sure either. The words come out steadier than I expect. That bothers me. He nods once. A small, contained motion. As if that answer fits neatly into something he already anticipated. Of course it does. Of course everything I do fits into something he already expects. There's another sound behind him, a shift, a presence. I don't need to look to know who it is, but I do anyway. My mother stands just behind him, slightly to the side, far enough that she's not the center of anything, close enough that she doesn't have to be. Her hands are clasped together, tight, too tight. I can see the faint blanching of her knuckles even from here. She smiles. It's automatic, reflexive. A shape her face remembers how to make even if the emotion behind it isn't quite there. You look well, there's a hesitation. A microscopic pause before the last word. I catch it. Of course I do. I am another lie that sounds too smooth. Or maybe it's not a lie. Maybe it's just incomplete. She nods. Again that small, controlled movement. No one steps forward. No one closes the distance. It stays exactly like this, me near the door, them further in, the hallway stretched between us like something intentional. I become acutely aware of my bag still on my shoulder, of the strap digging slightly into my skin, of the way my fingers are still curled slightly from holding the door handle. Micro things, irrelevant, but they fill the space where something else should be. Come in, my father says, and for a second I almost laugh. I'm already inside, but I understand what he means. He doesn't mean the house. He means further, deeper, into whatever this is. My feet move before I fully decide to let them. One step. The floor creaks again, louder this time. Or maybe I'm just listening harder. Another step. I pass the point where the light from outside reaches. The air changes, colder, stiller. The door behind me feels further away than it should. I don't look back. I know if I do, I'll measure the distance. And once I measure it, I'll understand it. And once I understand it, something inside me might shift in a way I can't control. So I don't. I keep moving forward, toward them, toward the center of the house, toward something that has already begun tightening around me, though no one has said anything yet. Not really. We move into the living room. It's the same. Of course it is. The couch hasn't changed. The table still has that slight unevenness in one leg. Curtains are drawn halfway, letting in a thin, diluted light that makes everything look flatter. Less real or more. I can't tell. Sit, my father gestures to the couch. I hesitate. Not visibly. Just enough that I feel it in my chest, a small resistance, like my body is checking with something deeper before complying. Then I sit. The cushion sinks slightly under my weight. Familiar. Too familiar. My mother sits across from me. My father remains standing for a moment longer, watching, measuring. Then he sits too. The triangle forms. Perfect, balanced, uncomfortable. No one speaks immediately. Of course not. That would be too direct, too honest. Instead, there's a shuffle of papers on the table. I hadn't noticed them before, or maybe I had and chose not to register them. A thin stack, neatly arranged, centered, waiting. My eyes drift toward them despite myself, and something inside me, something quiet and instinctive, tightens. There it is, the reason. Not spoken yet, but present, solid, Real. My father notices where I'm looking. Of course he does. His gaze follows mine, then returns to my face. Slow, deliberate. We didn't want to do this over the phone. The words are careful. Each one placed exactly where it needs to be. No excess, no vulnerability. Just function. I nod slightly. I don't trust my voice yet. My mother leans forward just a fraction. Her hands unclasp, then clasp again. A small, repetitive motion. She's nervous. That's new. Or maybe it isn't. Maybe I just never noticed before. It's complicated, another pause. Longer this time. Her eyes flicker to my father. Just for a second. Permission or confirmation or habit. He gives the slightest nod. Barely there. But I see it. Of course I do. Everything is so visible when you're looking for it. When you've spent years learning how to read what isn't being said. My chest feels tighter now. Not sharply. Just steadily. Layer by layer. What is it? I hear myself ask. My voice sounds distant. Not weak. Not strong. Just detached. Like it belongs to someone slightly behind me. My father reaches for the papers. His fingers rest on them for a moment before he picks them up. A pause. Again. Everything is pauses. Everything is measured. He slides them across the table. Toward me. Slowly. Not pushing. Not forcing. Just offering. They require your signature, and there it is. Simple. Clean. Almost harmless. If you ignore everything around it. If you ignore the years, the silence, the absence, the sudden reappearance of me in this space. If you ignore all of that, it's just a sentence, a request. Neutral. Reasonable. My hand doesn't move toward the papers. Not yet. I look at them, then at him, then at her. And something inside me, something that has been quiet for a very long time, begins to shift. Not violently, not dramatically, just subtly, like a foundation adjusting under pressure. What are they? The question feels heavier than it should. Because I already know. Not the specific, but the shape of it, the intention. The reason now, after everything. My father leans back slightly, creating space, or appearing to. It's regarding the property, of course it is. Of course it's something tangible. Something that can be transferred, divided, signed away. Something that requires a name. My name. The one they didn't use for years. My fingers twitch. Just slightly. Still not reaching. Still waiting. Why me? The question slips out before I can filter it. And immediately I feel something change. In the room. In them, in me. It's small. But it's there. My mother's hands tighten again. My father's expression doesn't change. But something behind it does, a calculation. A shift in approach. Because it's legally necessary, the answer comes too quickly. Too cleanly. Prepared. Of course it was prepared. Everything about this was. I feel something cold settle in my stomach. Not anger. Not yet. Something sharper. More precise. Legally necessary, I repeat. Tasting the word. Testing them. They feel hollow, he nods. Yes, silence again. But this time it's different. It's not waiting. It's pressing. The papers sit between us. Unmoved. But heavier now. As if their weight has increased simply by being acknowledged. My hand finally moved. Slowly. Not toward the pen. Not yet. Just toward the edge of the stack. My fingers hover above it. I can feel my pulse in them. Steady. Too steady. I place my fingertips on the top page. The texture is smooth. Slightly cool. Real. I don't pick it up. I just touch it. And in that moment, something inside my head begins to fracture. Not loudly, not dramatically, but in a way that feels irreversible. Because I understand something. Not fully. Not clearly. But enough. This isn't about the papers. It was never about the papers. It's about the fact that I am here. Now, after all this time. And they are looking at me. Waiting. Not for me. For what I can give them. My name. My consent. My existence reduced to a signature. The realization doesn't hurt. That's what unsettles me most. It should. It should burn. It should break something open. But instead it settles into me quietly. Like it's always been there. Like I'm just noticing it now. I lift my hands slightly. hovering again. My father watches. My mother watches. The room watches. Everything feels focused, narrowed, like the entire space has compressed down to this one point, this one moment, this one decision. And somewhere deep beneath the surface of my thoughts, something else begins to move. Something slower, darker. A question, not about the papers, not about the property, but about me, who I am in this room, who I've been outside of it, and whether there is any difference left between those two things. I exhale, slowly. My fingers curl slightly, and I finally pick up the first page. The paper bends just a little under the pressure. A small, almost imperceptible sound, but in the silence it feels loud. I start to read, and as my eyes move across the words legal, structured, impersonal, I feel something else begin to tighten. Not around me, inside me. A slow, steady constriction, like something is closing or collapsing or forming. I can't tell which. Not yet, but I know one thing. This is not the beginning of something. It's the continuation of something that never actually ended, and I have just stepped back into it. The first line doesn't make sense, not because it's complicated, because it's too clean, too neutral. My eyes move across the page again, slower this time, as if reducing speed will somehow force meaning to surface in places where it refuses to exist. Words like transfer, authorization, conditional ownership sit there in orderly rows, each one behaving exactly as it should, each one carrying weight that is supposed to be objective, impersonal, indisputable. But they don't feel objective. They feel aimed, not at me, through me. My thumb presses slightly harder against the edge of the paper. I can feel the faint resistance of the fibers, the microscopic give that shouldn't matter but suddenly does, because it anchors me to something physical while everything else feels off. My breathing changes. I don't notice it immediately. Just a slight delay between inhale and exhale. Fraction of a second where the air sits in my lungs longer than it should, like my body is hesitating, waiting for something to confirm that it's safe to continue. It isn't. That realization doesn't come as a thought. It comes as a sensation. Low, deep, unmistakable. Across from me, my father hasn't moved. Not visibly. But there's a tension in his stillness now that wasn't there before. It's subtle, controlled, but it exists. He's watching. Not my face, my hands. My eyes flicker up for a second. Too quick, but enough he notices. Of course he does. His gaze shifts upward, meets mine, holds it, not aggressively, not challengingly, but with a kind of patience that feels rehearsed. Take your time, the words land softly. Too softly. They don't match the tension in the room. They don't match the fact that everything about this moment is built on urgency that no one is willing to say out loud. Take your time, but don't. Take your time, but understand that time is already moving in a direction you can't control. Take your time, but we've already decided where this ends. I nod, automatically a reflex. My gaze drops back to the paper. The second paragraph. Something about division of asset, percentages, names. My name appears there, in the middle of a line that connects me to something I don't remember agreeing to be part of. I stare at it, not reading, just looking. My name. It looks wrong, not misspelled, not formatted incorrectly, just unfamiliar. Detached, like it belongs to someone who happens to share the same arrangement of letters. My throat tightens, a small swallow. It feels louder than it should. I wonder if they hear it. I wonder if they're tracking these things the way I am. Every micro sound, every shift, every indication of something slipping. My mother shifts in her seat. The fabric of her clothes brushes softly against itself. A small sound, but it cuts through everything. I don't look at her. I don't want to see her face right now, because I already know what it will be. That careful mixture of concern and restraint. The performance of softness without the risk of actual vulnerability. She inhales, holds it. Then you can ask questions. Her voice is quieter than his. Softer, but not less controlled. If anything, it feels more deliberate. Like each word has been weighed for its potential impact before being allowed to exist. I almost laugh. Almost. The sound rises somewhere in my chest, but it doesn't reach my throat. It dissolves halfway up. What would I ask? I say instead. My voice sounds different. Not detached this time. Sharper, but not outwardly aggressive. Just edge. Like something has been honed beneath the surface. Silent, not empty. Never empty. My father leans forward slightly. His elbows rest on his knees. A posture shift that signals something. Engagement or control or both. Anything that isn't clear, clear. The word echoes in my head. It feels wrong. Everything about this is clear. That's the problem. There's nothing ambiguous about what they need from me. Nothing uncertain about why I'm here. The only thing that's unclear is why it feels like something else is happening underneath. Something not written on these pages. Something that doesn't require ink. My fingers turn the page. Paper slides against itself with a soft, dry sound. Another small noise. Another point of focus. Another ink. The next section is denser. More clauses. More conditions. And there again's my name. Repeated. Reinforced. Threaded through the document like a necessary component. Without it, nothing holds. Without it, nothing moves forward. Without it, nothing works. My chest tightens again. This time sharper. More defined. I exhale slowly. Too slowly. The breath trembles at the end. I feel it. I wonder if they do. I glance up again. This time my eyes land on my mother. She's watching me, but not directly. Her gaze hovers just slightly off-center, like she's trying to look without appearing to. Her hands are still clasped, tighter now. The skin around her knuckles is pale. There's a faint tremor in her fingers. Or maybe I'm imagining it. No, it's there. Subtle, but real. Something shifts in me. Not sympathy. Not quite. Recognition of pressure, of expectation. Of something being held in place with more effort than it should require. Why now? The question comes out before I fully decide to ask. It lands differently than the last one. Heavier. More direct. More dangerous. My father doesn't answer immediately. Of course he doesn't. He leans back again, creating space, distance, time. His eyes don't leave mine. We've been meaning to address this for a while. A lie. Or not a lie. Something worse. A truth that has been delayed, reshaped, conveniently timed. For a while, I repeat. My voice is quieter now. Not softer. Just lower, he nods. Yes, silence again. But this silence feels unstable. Like something beneath it is shifting, cracking. My fingers tighten around the edge of the page. I don't realize how hard I'm holding it until the paper bends slightly. A small crease forms. My eyes lock onto it. That crease, that tiny imperfection. It wasn't there before. I made it. The realization hits in a strange way. Not as guilt, not as concern, but as proof that I'm affecting something. That I'm not just being moved through this moment. That I exist in it. That I can change things. Even if it's just a piece of paper. Even if it's just a crease. The thought lingers longer than it should. Expands. Branches. If I can change that, my hand loosens slightly. The paper flattens, but the crease remains. Permanent. Visible. Irreversible. Like something has been marked. Like something has been altered in a way that can't be undone. My gaze drifts back to the text, but I'm not reading anymore. Not really. The words blur slightly. Not visually, but cognitively. They lose cohesion. They become shapes instead of meaning. My mind is elsewhere or everywhere. I'm aware of my breathing again, of the way my chest rises, falls, pauses, of the slight tension in my shoulders, the way my jaw is clenched just enough to create pressure without pain. I become aware of the room, the temperature, cooler than it should be. Or maybe I'm colder. The air feels still, too still, like it's been sitting here waiting just like everything else. I hear something, faint, a ticking. I hadn't noticed it before. Now I can't not notice it, a clock, somewhere behind me or above, or inside the walls. Tick, a pause, tick. The rhythm is wrong, not steady, not perfectly spaced. There's a slight irregularity, just enough to feel off. I focus on it, for a second too long. It starts to feel louder, closer, like it's syncing with something. my pulse, my breath. Or are you all right? My mother's voice cuts through it. The ticking doesn't stop, but it recedes slightly. I blink. I didn't realize I had stopped moving. My eyes shift back to her. Her expression has changed. Not dramatically, but enough. The careful composure has cracked just a little. Concern. Real or performed, I can't tell. Fine, I say. The word feels insufficient, but it's what comes out. She nods. Too quickly. Like she's accepting it because she needs to, not because she believes it. My father doesn't speak, he watches. Always watch. The papers sit between us. Still waiting. Still central. But something has shifted. Not in them, in me. I look down at my name again. There. Embedded. Necessary. Required. And something about that, something about being required, feels wrong in a way that is hard to articulate. Because I wasn't required before. Not really. Not in the ways that mattered. Years pass. Silence stretches. Absence becomes normal. And now I am necessary. Now I am essential. My signature. My consent. My existence reduced to something functional. The thought doesn't hurt, it distorts. That's the only way I can describe it. Like something inside me is being reshaped. Not broken. Not shattered. Just bent. Quietly. Persistently. Until it fits into something else. I exhale. Slow. Controlled. My hand moves. Not consciously. Not decisively. Just moves. Toward the pen. It's already there. Of course it is. Placed carefully beside the papers. Aligned. Ready. Waiting. My fingers hover above it. The space between skin and plastic feels significant. Too significant. Like crossing it would mean something irreversible. More irreversible than the crease. More permanent. I hesitate. Not dramatically. Just enough. A fraction. But in that fraction something else surfaces. A thought. Clear. Sharp. Uninvited. If I sign this, the thought stops there. It doesn't finish. It doesn't need to. Because the ending is too large. Too undefined. Too final in a way that doesn't have words. My fingers lower. They touch the pen. It's warm. Slightly. As if someone held it recently. Of course they did. Of course it was prepared. Everything was. I pick it up. The weight is negligible. But it feels heavier. My grip adjusts. Tightens. Relaxes. Adjusts again. I bring the tip toward the paper. Hovering. Just above the line where my name is printed. Where it's waiting to be repeated. Confirmed. Validate. The ticking is louder again. Or maybe I'm just listening harder. Zego. Pausing. Zego. My breath catches. Just slightly. My vision narrows. Not physically, but focused. Everything outside the line fades, the room. Them, the past, the years. Everything compresses into this one point. This one motion. This one decision. And in that compression, something cracked. Not loud. Not visibly. But undeniably a fracture. Deep. Internal. Spreading. I feel it. In my chest. In my head. In the space between thought and action. A realization. Sudden. Cold. Terrifying in its quietness. I don't know why I'm here. Not really. Not in the way that matters. Yes, they called. Yes, they need my signature. Yes, I came. But the why beneath that, the part that connects those things, is missing. Or has always been missing. And I've just stepped into the gap without noticing. My hand trembles. Slightly. The pen tip touches the paper. A small dot of ink forms. Unintentional. Irreversible. My name is right there. Printed. Waiting. And for a moment, a long, stretched, suffocating moment, I don't recognize it. Not as mine. Not as something that belongs to me. It's just a shape, a requirement, a placeholder. And I am just the thing that fills it. The thought lands. Harder than anything else has. Not painful. Not sharp. Just final. My fingers tighten around the pen. The ink dot spreads slightly. Blades into the fibers. I can feel my heartbeat now. Loud. Irregular. Too present. Just sign it, my father's voice. Quiet. Firm. Close. Closer than before. I hadn't noticed him lining in. I hadn't noticed the distance closing. But it has. Of course it has. Everything has been moving toward this. Everything. My mother doesn't speak, but I feel her watching. I feel both of them watching, waiting. Not for me, for the motion, for the completion, for the moment where I stop hesitating and become useful. My hand begins to move. Slowly. The pen drags against the paper. The first stroke of my name. Familiar. Muscle memory. Even now. Even here. It forms without thought, the curve, the line, the shape. But as it appears, as it takes form on the page, something inside me recoils. Not physically, not visibly, but deeply. Because it looks right. Too right. Like it belongs here. Like it was always meant to be here. And that feels like the most unsettling thing of all. I finish the first letter. Pausing. The pen hovers again. Just for a second. But in that second, everything feels wrong. Not just this moment. Not just this room. Everything. My past. My absence. My return, the silence, the years. The fact that I came when they called. The fact that I am sitting here now. The fact that my hand is moving in a way that feels both completely mine and not mine at all. A thought slips in. Quiet. Soft. Almost gentle. What if this is the only thing I've ever been? Not a person. Not a son. Not someone who was ignored or forgotten. Just a signature. Waiting to be used. The pen presses down again. The next letter begins. And as it forms, as my name becomes whole, I feel something settle. Not resolve. Not peace. Something else. Something heavier. Quieter. Permanent. Like a door has closed. Not behind me. Inside me. The last stroke finishes. The pen lifts. The ink glistens slightly before it dries. My name sits there. Complete. Accepted. Real. I stare at it. Longer than I should. Longer than necessary. Because I'm waiting for something, a feeling, a reaction. Confirmation that something has changed. But nothing comes. Or maybe something does. Something subtle. A shift so small it's almost imperceptible. Like the room has exhaled. Like the pressure has redistributed. Not gone. Never gone. Just moved. My father reaches forward. Takes the papers. Efficient. Controlled. Satisfied. My mother exhales. A sound she tries to suppress but can't fully. Relief. Or something like it. They don't look at me. Not immediately. They look at the papers. At the signature. At the completion. And in that moment, in that quiet, almost invisible shift of attention, I understand something. Fully. Clearly. With a kind of certainty that doesn't leave room for doubt. It was never about me being here. Not really. It was about that. That line. That name. That moment. And now that it's done, I am unnecessary again. The realization doesn't hurt. It doesn't even surprise me. It just exists. Solid. Unmovable. True. I place the pen back on the table. Carefully. Precisely. Aligned. Just like everything else. My hands rest on my knees. Still. My breathing evens out. Slow. Controlled. Normal. Too normal. The ticking fades again. Or maybe I stop hearing it. My father stacks the papers. Taps them lightly on the table to align the edges. A small, neat motion. Completion. He finally looks at me. And for the first time since I arrived, there's something in his expression that resembles acknowledgement. Not warmth. Not connection. Just recognition. Of function fulfilled. That should take care of it, I nod. Of course it does. Of course it does. Silence settles again. But it's different now. Lighter. Not for me, for them. The pressure has lifted from them. Transferred. Displaced. I sit there. Still. Present. But already fading. Not physically. Something else. Something internal. Like the part of me that occupied this space has already begun to recede. Detach. Withdraw. I don't stand immediately. I don't speak. I just sit and feel the weight of something that doesn't have a name. Something that isn't grief, isn't anger, isn't even emptiness. It's something quieter, more complete, like understanding without resolution. like clarity without relief. Eventually, I do stand. The motion feels automatic, expected. No one stops me. No one asks me to stay. Of course they don't. I walk back through the hallway. The light flickers again, the same way it always has. Unchanged, unaffected. The door is where I left it, closed, waiting. I reach for the handle. My fingers wrap around it. The metal is cool, familiar. I hesitate, just for a second. And in that second, I wonder something. Not about them, not about the papers, about me. If I leave now, what exactly is leaving? The thought lingers, unanswered, unanswerable. I open the door. Light spills in, too bright, too sharp. I step through it. The air outside feels different, or maybe I do. The door closes behind me. The click sounds the same, but it doesn't echo, not like before. I stand there, on the other side, breathing, existing. My hand lifts slightly. I look at it, at my fingers, at the faint smudge of ink near the side of my index finger. Proof, evidence, something small, something real. I rub it with my thumb. It doesn't come off. Of course it doesn't. I lower my hand, and for a moment, just a moment, I feel something close again. Not around me, inside me, quiet, final, like a space that used to be open has sealed itself. Not violently, not painfully, just completely. I turn away from the house. The path stretches ahead, familiar, unchanged, but something is different, not in the world, in the way I move through it. Each step feels slightly disconnected, not wrong, just distant, like I'm following a pattern that was set in motion before I fully understood it. And now I'm just continuing it, because stopping doesn't feel like an option, because turning back doesn't make sense, because forward is the only direction left, even if I don't know what it leads to, even if I don't know what's left of me by the time I get there. The gravel shifts under my shoes, a soft, repetitive sound. Debo, Jevdo, Debo, Jevdo. It almost sounds like something else, something familiar, something internal, a rhythm, a pattern, a continuation. I don't look back, not once, because I know with a certainty that settles deep and stays there. If I do, I won't see the house. I won't see them. I'll see something else, something quieter, something worse, the exact shape of what I left behind, and the exact shape of what I took with me. And the difference between those two things, if there is one at all. The thought stays with me. It doesn't fade. It doesn't resolve. It just exists, like everything else now. Incomplete, unfinished, unavoidable.